been a tradition for YPO to have this opening ceremony every year. As you know, the calendar of YPO usually starts in September and ends in June. We've been doing it like since I've been in YPO. We start in September, we have this opening event. We meet each other, we meet the new members that have joined. I know many of us don't know everybody here. And we introduce the board, and we introduce the education year of the coming year. So we're trying to keep the tradition, and we went ahead with this event. Welcome everybody. As you know, also in Lebanon we have two chapters. We have the YPO chapter and YPO Gold chapter. I'm speaking to you as the chair of the YPO Gold chapter. Our friend and my foreign buddy Christina couldn't make it. She's the chapter chair of the YPO. Christina just delivered few weeks ago, and she's still not. She couldn't make it. For a big hand of applause for Christina, please. In the past couple of years, we've been very collaborative chapters between YPO and YPO Gold. We are collaborating on all aspects. As you know, we have mixed forums, mixed spouse forums. Our budget is very collaborative together. The boards, we sit on each other's boards. We sit on the membership board. As you know, as YPO Gold, we cannot have new members joining YPO Gold. YPO Gold, you can only join when you leave YPO, when you turn 50, and or if you're coming from outside Lebanon. By the way, there's a new program called the Athena program for women. They don't, even if they're, to join YPO, you have to be 45 or below, but the Athena program now allows women to join until they're 55. So if you know any women that are eligible, they can join YPO Gold, even if they're over 55. Right? Just info. Sorry? Yeah, okay. As I said, we're collaborating a lot between the YPO and the Gold chapter. We have one education program. George and Haitham are our education chairs, and they've done the whole program together. I'm really excited about what's coming forward this year. Although these couple of days were not the best, and on a final note, I just want to remind everybody about being part of YPO. I remember I was part of YPO when I first joined, and I was not really engaged at the beginning. Just to remind you, all of you, to be at the end, why did we join YPO? We want to be like part of it, right? So make sure we're all in forums. Spouses are all in forums. Try to attend events if you're in Lebanon, and try to be a champion of an event, both spouses and members. And if possible, I urge that each one should be at least once in the board. It's very important to be part of the board, just to be engaged in all aspects of YPO. Of course, there are other aspects, international events, international forums, international networks, but we need like more engagement and more encouragement. Thank you all for being here. Haitham Nawam is the learning officer. Wa'el Senno, the co-learning officer. Assistant to the assistant of the assistant. Hassan Manno hon, but Hassan Al-Fil is also on the board as a forum officer. Rania Wahbi, a spouse partner officer. George Khouri is now the membership officer, and we have a small membership committee that look into all the income, to all the applicants of that join YPO. We have Dina Field Forum officer spouses. Rawan Khalil also joined us, and she's the family officer. كتير محمسة روان, and she has an event coming soon. And our co-family officer is Naila Saikh. I'm also going to introduce, oh, Christina's here. I like Christina, Zafi like Christina. Okay, so Christina, you're on. Okay, you want me to go ahead? Okay. So for the YPO Lebanon board, Christina Khater, chapter chair, after doing an amazing education officer last year. And Jad, thank you again, Christina, for last year. And our upcoming our current learning officer, the one and only George Abu Adal. Woo! The co-learning officer, Cynthia Abu Khater. The family officer, Elsa Hanna. Finance officer, Michelle Char. Karim Baalbarki, membership officer. Member engagement officer, Dayala Dagher. وكمان forum officer. Okay. Diala Senno, the spouse officer. ديالا جربي حطي كل spouses بالforums. والspouse forum. Sorry, Marianne is the Marianne Kalasi is the spouse forum officer, and Diala is the spouse partner officer. Okay, so that's the board for this year. Thank you, board, Anjad. It's and Halla, George, it's up to you.
Guys, thank you all for being here today. Honestly, ما بعرف شو لكم. You're truly awesome to be here. Despite everything, despite جدار الصوت, despite fear, despite threats, despite anxiety. All of us feel anxious. Male, let's say it, it's okay. But we're here today. So today, our presence is simply and beautifully a statement. A statement that we're going to keep on going on no matter what. A statement that we have to continue living. A statement that we have to continue being together, holding hands together, helping each other, being a community. That's what a community is for. That's what YPO is for. I cannot think, honestly, of a better time for a YPO reunion. So thank you so much for making it despite everything. Thank you so much. Anjad. I also want to say we have two co-champions here that made it happen today. Okay, really, I have to thank Karma Barakat, Rashid Hanna. You're awesome. Really, thank you so much. I mean, it was piece of cake with them. Honestly speaking, guys, they're really. I hope to do more events with you guys. I don't know if you're gonna want to do, but really, it was great. Rana Sim'an, وينك؟ فليتي؟ وينك؟ ما تهربي. Rana Sim'an, Sheikha, thank you so much. Really, we have to thank Rana. She's the tree of YPO. She's the one holding us together. She's the one making the logistic, the call. She's the one, who called you all yesterday to see if you were going to come. Honestly, 90% of you made it. Really, that's a big number, despite everything. Thank you. So, one thing though, I mean, we had prepared many things. And one of the things we had prepared and we were very excited about is a concert. We want to do a concert. So we felt, okay, we had three options. The options were, we keep it as such with the concert, but the concert would be very loud. We keep it, but without the concert, or we postpone it. We decided on option 2, which is keeping it without the concert. Unfortunately, the concert is not going to happen That's only delayed. We're still gonna make the concert, but another time. Now, the idea is we're Lebanese, we're flexible, we're agile, we adapt. So we said, okay, let's take some time to talk about YPO. A lot of you are gold. We heard you. A lot of you know what YPO is. A lot of you here يعني أسسوا YPO. And I want to thank you for being here. And you know yourselves. But a lot of you as well are new. And don't necessarily know what YPO is for. A lot of you wonder, okay, I signed up for this. What does it bring me? So we figured, let's take this time to communicate what YPO is, how can it help you, how can it help us, and for you guys to ask questions around. So use this, we're 50 today, use this time to ask questions, to get to know each other, to, just meet people you don't know. So YPO is about becoming a better version of yourself, and it truly is. I cannot emphasize for you guys who are still new to YPO how of an amazing community YPO is. And don't take me wrong, the Lebanese community is amazing, our national chapter is awesome, but YPO is much more than that. YPO is about exposing yourself to people you don't know, to culture you don't know, to ambiguity, to just be vulnerable, be yourself to, with a lot of diversity. And that's what YPO is good at. So I encourage you really to use YPO to become a better version of yourself. Now, I thought about the 4 big reasons that makes YPO awesome. And the first reason is the global connection. Guys, you have through YPO Connect, only YPO Connect, right? I'm not telling you about anything else. YPO Connect for now. By connecting to YPO Connect and using the database of YPO Connect, which is a much better version of last year, you can access 30,000 members in 142 countries. And God knows how many times I've tried accessing it, and they all answer. So you want to know, I don't know, somebody in Peru that works in, let's say, mining. Or you just want to go to Colombia and visit Cali. You have a community across the globe which will answer you within 24 hours, and I mean 24 hours, which is awesome. I mean, you become simply a real citizen of the world by just accessing YPO. And we are talking about 30,000 members who are also owners of company or CEO of companies who think like you, who have similar responsibilities, who have the similar, sometimes challenges as you, so with whom you can connect and exchange. That's the beauty of YPO. Second, the transaction hub. Actually, before the transaction hub, the forum. If one of you is not yet in a forum, I would urge you to join a forum. Forum is where you really can exchange everything you have in your heart without being judged, in all confidentiality, and while listening to people that went through similar situation. You have the networks, and I know many of you are networks. I saw last time where in Istanbul, I saw Ziad, also part of a network, so I invite you to talk to Ziad, who's heading a network. Ziad Awad, where are you? And many people, Ziad, talk about the networks here. Networks are amazing, and guess what? We now officially have network officer. Michel Char, where are you? I have to say, Michel Char also is finance and network officer. So if you have any question, Michel is still new in this. She just got to know 1 week ago that she was network officer. She's also in charge of leveraging network. Ask her about networks. Networks are amazing. You have the family business network, you have the transaction network, you name them. You have the mining network, the building network, you have all type of network. Connect through network, that's also a great thing. Also, and that I didn't know until lately, you have something called the transaction hub. If you want to make investment, you want to raise capital, you want to make an M&A, you have question about it. Guess what? YPO is for this as well. And you can email and access this through member.opportunitynetwork.com. Second reason why IPO is awesome. peace of mind. Did you know that actually with YPO you can get, first and foremost, if you have any business emergency, there's a hotline for business emergency. Any business emergency, you email that email, they will connect you with somebody who had the similar problem and who managed to solve it. And this is through you never walk alone at ypo.org. Second, and this is something I've been using, member-to-member exchange. If you see through YBO Connect a member that you like just to get in touch with, member exchange is the way to go about. It opens so many doors. And YPO Safe Travel Solution is something that I think by default you have, just to let you know. Your spouse doesn't have it, but you by default you have. But none of us is using it. And it's incredible. Any problem you have in any country, whether it's medical, whether the country is at war, hey, whether, this insurance allows you to get out of the country immediately in priority. And this is something you have by default. So get to know what you have as a YPO member as well. Third, YPO learning program resources. I think for me, this is the best. I've heard from so many of you inspiring stories. I mean, Michelle, I have to say, I mean, you in Harvard, for example, your program with Harvard. Lena, I have to talk about your program in IMD. Wael, I have to talk about, everything you told me about YPS and other programs as well. I know a lot of you went through learning programs, came back stronger, more confident, and inspired. Guys, get to use this program. These are programs that are accessible in a better way through YPO. Make use of it. Really. I know I'm going in November to IMD and I'm looking for it. And I got to be accepted just because I'm a YPO member. Also, on-demand learning, you have, by the way, if you download something called the Source YPO on your phone, there's an app. It is incredible. It is incredible, really. You access 1,300 videos on something called the Source. It's only YPO, and only you can have access to it. And it's incredible videos. Yeah, some of them are only 3 minutes, some of them are an hour. You could as well say that I can access it through YouTube, but you have amazing professors from all greatest universities giving exclusive talks for YPO members and the specific school. So download it. It's called The Source. It's on Google Android and iPhone as well. Last but not least, you have something called YPO mentoring. I don't know if you knew about this. It's also something that I found out 6 months ago. If you need a mentor, let's say you feel like, hey, I'm the CEO and I feel I'm not getting the right feedback. I feel that no matter what the feedback is, it's not sincere enough. It's not honest enough because it's going to come from either subordinates and therefore it's not going to be, straightforward, or it's going to come from people with interest. You can be mentored and you have access to the best mentors in YPO. If you need a mentor, get Access YPO for a mentor. You'll have amazing network of mentors. Last but not least, spouse, partner, and family programs. You guys know that there are a lot of programs for your spouse. I mean, there's the spouse IMD leadership program as well. There's program for your children as well. If you want to send your children to a program in Harvard, for example, the fact that you're YPO, you will get priority access to that. You also know about YNG. We have an amazing YNG community. A lot of Lebanese are part of the YNG regional board. We're very proud of that. A lot of the members that you see today have their sons or daughter part of the YNG. YNG are the future YPO. Please get to know what YNG is. And ask, from Malik to anybody around here who has a son or a daughter in YNG, what is it about? It really sets your child on the right track. So I was keen to tell you about what YPO offers because I figured a lot of you, or me as a matter of fact, didn't know. And a lot of the members that have been with us for what, 10, 15, 20 years might not know that YPO offers that today. Now, let's rediscover. You've seen it here. You see it here. Let's rediscover is the theme for this year. What does it mean? What do we mean by let's rediscover? We did put the Lebanese flag here. Yes, one of the things we want to rediscover is our country. And I know it's the right time to say it. We want to rediscover it through different eyes. First, we saw it. We want to rediscover it through the cultural perspective. And this is why we're here today. So there's also one of the things you're going to see in the learning calendar this year is health as well. Mental health, physical health. You're going to see a lot of programs, a lot of events geared toward health. And this is something you've all been talking about, whether it's anxiety, whether it's mental health, whether it's mindfulness, whether it's, you name it, we're going to cover it in this learning calendar. Second, our cultural heritage, like you see here. There's not a better monument than this one to highlight what our cultural heritage is about. We have gems in Lebanon. A lot of us don't know about. And we'll try to discover many gems in Lebanon during this year. Second, the wonders of nature. And this is something I personally, that give me peace. When I go and walk and hike, I know Tariq is preparing us an amazing hike. And I want to thank Tariq for, championing the first hike of the year. But we're going to have many other things that are connected to nature. Fourth, the power of our private sector. We are very strong as a private sector, and we underestimate ourselves. We are actually the economy of Lebanon. And this country is on its feet today and still standing because of us and thanks to us. And I don't think we acknowledge it enough. So we're going to acknowledge it. And I want to salute here Nicolas Bouchater, who's been doing a tremendous work under RDCL. Thank you, Nicolas. Nicolas is going to champion a beautiful event about that, and we're going to see it in the future. Last but not least, our passion for self-learning and self-growth. I know all of us share the same passion. We all want to become, we all want to learn. We are all thirsty of understanding the world better, of understanding this big puzzle and how it's all connected. And this is what unites us together. We all know that we're ignorant. And the fact that we all know that we're ignorant and want to know more is beautiful. It makes us humble, makes us human, makes us beautiful people. So this is what we're going to be focusing on as well. So what does it mean? It means that in September, we have the opening event. That's it for now, for September. In October, we're going to have another museum. And Ruwan, where's Ruwan? Turkey. Okay, she's not here. Ruwan is going to champion this beautiful event. It's a celebration at Salwa Rawda Shair Timeless Art. Beautiful museum that still didn't open. They're going to actually have a private access for us. It's going to be special for YPO, and it's going to be beautiful. I've seen some pictures. She gave me a sneak peek. Guys, if you haven't registered for the event, please do. It's already on Instagram. Do register for it if you're going to be here. We're going to have a hike with a twist, and I do say a twist because Tariq is preparing something incredible. Not to raise expectation, but I'd like to say that there's going to be a part related to wild plants. I won't say more. The next is going to be what's next for the Lebanese private sector, the path to restructuring. This is going to be an event championed by Nicolas Bouchater, where he's going to intervene and other resources are going to intervene. This is, I call on everyone here who's in a way or another affected by the Lebanese economy, who has a company in this country, and he wants to know how he or she can contribute to the Lebanese economy in a better way to attend the event. In November, we're going to have a Med campaign. So Med campaign is very cool. It's going to be for kids, and it's going to be about medical and AI, medical learning and AI for our kids. Okay, it's an event that's going to be co-organized with YPO Levant, and I'm very glad to say that we've already set the date, we've already set the resources. It's going to be incredible. If you want your kids to get to know a bit of medical, an introduction to medicine and AI, do that and sign them up. Okay. we're gonna have a night at the museum, and our very Dina Alfil and Lina Komati are gonna organize this event. It's gonna be at the National Museum. Um, Incredible from what I'm seeing already. I'm very excited. Come in, you're gonna have special access, great food. You're gonna have access to the new Kamen segment of the museum, and it's gonna be just special because of you, honestly speaking. So please sign up if once you see the leaflet. The dino round is gonna continue. Last year we did it in February. This year we're gonna do it in November. 3 or 4 YPOers will be hosting YPOers in their house in small committee, and it's gonna be incredible as usual. Last but not least, in December, we're going to have a story about successful startups, the story told by founders and investors. Abdallah Yafi is preparing something incredible, and I'm very excited. We're talking about who's going to intervene. So far, some of the names popping up are pretty exciting. We hope that the situation will be a bit stable for this to happen. We know we're going to make it happen in a way or another. We just don't know yet if the resources are going to be able to make it. We are also, Haitham Nawam and others are organizing something very cool, I think. It's the YNG and the YPO teens. So basically, we have amazing, not only track records, all of us, but some of us have children that went to great universities and have story to tell and have experience to share, and they want to share it with your kids. So basically, this is what's going to happen. It's an exchange between university students of YPOers and your kids. It's going to be also in small committee. All the questions will be asked. This will allow your kids to know exactly what they want and to ask all the questions they might have about American schools, European schools, Lebanese schools, for God's sakes, why not, and other schools as well. Last but not least, we're going to have a great Christmas party, hopefully. And we pass to the next year. Next year will be, so Georges Khouri and Michel Shah will be preparing a very nice event on succession and governance. And this is part 2. I don't know who of you attended the first event. It was last year. No, this year, actually. Really, really great. I think everyone, when we saw the performance or the evaluation, everyone loved it, but they wanted more. So this is the second part. A lot of us have companies. A lot of us don't know how to structure our succession. A lot of us don't know how to structure our governance. This is exactly what this is going to target. And please do attend. Governance and succession is very important. You have to start thinking about succession. From now, you have to start thinking about governance for the sustainability of your business. And this is what it's gonna, the event will tackle. Next, we're going to have a topic that have been requested by a lot of us and is becoming, unfortunately, very common. And it's about aging parents and dementia. We're gonna, Zaina Nawam, where is she? Zaina is preparing, thank you Zaina for championing that. Thank you so much. When I approached Zaina, I think she was more proactive than I was proactive, so thank you so much for wanting to champion that. We're gonna approach this from a preventive, but also how to deal with it. We still don't have all the details, but Zaina's working on something incredible, I'm sure. Next is AI's Empowerment for CEOs workshop. This is the part 2. The first part happened last year. It was with Adi. I think a lot of you loved it. The evaluation was amazing on that. Now we're hoping Adi will be coming to Lebanon. Last time he came to Lebanon, he had to leave the next morning, Haribe, because of the situation. I don't know if he's coming under these circumstances, but we'll make him come. We'll make sure that he does attend this event. In March, we're going to have, where is she? Nai is going to talk about mind and mycelium and covering the health power of mushrooms. And this is something that I would love to know about this. I've been so excited about it. I know a lot of you have spoke about it. What is it? In some countries, it's becoming super common. It's becoming part of what doctor prescribes even. In other countries, it's taboo. You know, at YPO, we don't have taboo. We talk about everything. And this is the beauty of YPO. Controversy is not controversy if it's debatable. And this is what we'll be talking about. Of course, we're going to have an iftar dinner to celebrate our beautiful diversity as well. In April, we'll have a family day outing in nature with a treasure hunt. Now, I don't want to ruin the surprise, but Elsa Hanna is preparing something related to that. Thank you, Elsa. Elsa is, I discover, a scout in the heart, and she's definitely passionate about nature, which I love, and I look forward to participate to this event as a child as well. So, we're also going to have an event by Daniel Hatem, who's going to be talking about how top companies have managed VUCA, so volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And it's going to be, I'm looking forward to that. Last but not least, in May and in June, we're going to have, in May, we're going to have the, a lot of people have been, asking about alternative investment. We've been talking about luxury watches. We've been talking about art. This year, we're going to talk about wine, how to start your wine collection. And it's going to be approached as well from an investment point of view, because a lot of people are using wine as an alternative investment. So this is something that our, where is he? Where is he? Our very own Malik is going to organize. Malik, thank you for that. And I think Salim is not here today, Salim Bokhti. Salim Bokhti will be a main resource for that event as well. We're going to have a mindfulness retreat for spouses. It's being organized in May because the weather allows it. We're also going to have, and that's an event I'll be championing hopefully, stargazing event. So if for those of you who wonder what stars you're seeing at night, why is the universe limited or unlimited, where are you coming from, what's the black hole, is there another dimension? We'll be talking about all of this. We'll be going to Yunus Simen, Werde, doing a nice, not camping, but doing a nice stargazing event. I welcome all of you who want to discover your sky to join the event. It's not going to be before June because the weather will allow it then. Last but not least, hopefully, the YPO closing, where we'll celebrate a full year. So this is, for now, the event. Thank you. كله هيدا حكي. I did it 5 minutes ago. No, hopefully we're gonna make it happen. Really. Great. And I Christina, our very own president, Christina Khatir, will be talking now.
Personally, I love your energy, and I'm so looking forward for this year. I just want to thank you all for being here, and we're looking at an amazing 2024-2025 calendar. We're always here, and please, anyone, if you have any idea that you would like us to add at any stage that could add value as well, we're happy to listen. So enjoy your night.
Okay, now we did cancel the party, and that's fine because we can create entertainment. But before we create entertainment, we have a learning event. And I was so looking forward to this learning event. This is a person I've personally been following on Instagram for a while, a person so inspiring, who knows how to explain things in a way that allows you to be even more interested, more curious, and wanting to discover more. He did intervene in YPO before. He was amazing. He was applauded, and he's coming back. Ladies and gentlemen, Shar al-Hayek.
This history lesson is quite needed in times of hardship, and especially given that we have such a monumental past, we have a monumental inspiration at our disposal to use in times of hardship. The premises you're celebrating your event, you are in one of the iconic monuments of Beirut. You are in a monument that represents and actually presents in a magnificent, noble, aristocratic, and elegant way what Beirut was capable of. This is actually the product of 300 years. It was built in 1912, of course, but the entire culture that made this possible, that made Beirut a major center of learning and a center of production of knowledge, it took us 300 years of learning, of exploring, and of actually challenging. My talk tonight, will be actually a small time travel to understand why it is very important to know Lebanese history. My name is Achrafieh. My real job has nothing to do with Instagram. I'm a researcher at the American University of Beirut. I used to be a teacher for 20 years in one of the oldest schools in the Middle East, Collège Saint-Joseph Antoura. But I decided to go into public history because we have a big gap between what we learn at school and the reality and the political discourse. Both are very, very away and far from what Lebanon is. It's always a challenge to decide on a title for a talk. So I said to myself while discussing with George, let's play actually on a small opposition. Our borders might be humble, but our past is monumental. And this will be actually the driving force behind our talk tonight. How should what perspective? Okay. ما بدها بعد وحدة. These are the 5 main themes for today. We need to start with, you do know we were actually part of the land that witnessed the emergence of the first villages, agriculture, urban life. 2, a little bit of Phoenician history, and especially why the cedar was so important, and try to place this history in its real historical value. Baalbek, and how Baalbek is the echo of Rome's empire. The culinary change, why do we have such a rich culinary heritage? And the pillars of modernity, the 19th century that made Lebanon, especially that were in Beirut and Mount Lebanon, and made us who we are. Please. Quite the boring timeline, just for you to know how far. I didn't add any dates, but this starts, prehistory almost ends 12,000 years ago. So we have an accumulation of 12,000 years of skills and knowledge in a very small geographical space. First, let me introduce you to the beginnings of history in Byblos. You do know that Byblos, Jbel, is one of the oldest cities on earth for 2 reasons. First, it's one of the few archaeological sites where you have an unbroken accumulation and human occupation for over 12,000 years. 2, it is a space that actually helps us understand how humans shifted to respond to a challenge 12,000 years ago. We used to be nomads. We used to actually follow the seasons to find food. However, 12,000 years ago, it coincided with the end of an ice age. With the end of the ice age, prey became more and more difficult to find. This pushed humans, especially in this region, to think and address this challenge in understanding the cycle of nature, and thus they discovered agriculture. By discovering agriculture, they had to stop being nomads because you cannot plant seeds and go around. So what did they do? They settled down and started building small villages with oval or round houses. I think few of you have ever been to this part of the Jbel archaeological site, Min Zaira. You have to. This is the oldest village in Lebanon. What is left are the foundations of the houses. The houses looked like igloo, but actually made out of reeds and mud. At the same time, they didn't have any knowledge of metal, so they had only at their disposal stones to make their tools. However, These were extremely mobile early humans in what is now Lebanon. They went all the way to Anatolia, to Turkey, to bring the obsidian. The obsidian stone is one of the best cutting edge stones. So they had this was their AI, this was their technology. With this small village, we see the same process in Beirut, in Baalbek, in Tripoli, in Saida, in Sur. Small villages that will with time develop to become the big cities that shaped the history of the region. The second question is the cedar. This is a very beautiful picture of a cedar above Baalbek, because we still had remains of forests of cedar in the anti-Lebanon range in the beginning of the 20th century. However, we lost them because of mismanagement, because of the فلتين الموجود فوق. Cedrus libani, you do know the actual scientific name of the cedar. It's one of the few trees that are linked organically to the land where you have the biggest concentration of cedars. Cedrus libani are, of course, a very powerful cultural symbol. But let me do two things. First, understand why these cedars were, and since you are in trade and economy, were in the history of humanity the first mass good to be traded, and how the Phoenicians contributed to this. We usually tend to think of the Phoenicians as exclusively producers of luxury goods. That's right. But at the same time, what made the Phoenicians extremely powerful, they controlled the chain of supply for almost 1,000 years in antiquity. Not only the chain of supplies that actually make life, daily life possible, olive oil, grain, fish, wine. They played a major role in making wine something very important in the Mediterranean. They were the ones controlling the chain of supplies of elements that can build an empire. They controlled the mining industry in the Mediterranean. Mining copper, tin, and when you mix copper and tin, you have bronze and iron. So any empire that needs to build an army needs the Phoenician at their side. Two, they controlled wood. And given that the Lebanese mountain was heavily wooded, and part of the forests of Lebanon were cedars, and given that the cedar wood is practically eternal, and it is much needed not only to construct palaces and temples, but to construct naval power. You need big ships to be able to build an empire. This is when cedar became very, very important to build an empire. And one of the best preserved cedar ships can be seen in Giza. Now it has been moved to the new Egyptian Museum. This is the funeral ship of Pharaoh Cheops. عمرها 3000 سنة ما بوشيل خشب. You can still smell the cedar scent in it. This cedar, given its relevance in world economy and for empire, also acquired a religious dimension. Are you familiar with the Psalms? الصديق كالنخل ينمو يزهو والكالأرز في لبنان ينمو. The righteous shall flourish like a palm tree and like a cedar in Lebanon and grow like a cedar in Lebanon. So cedars became a symbol of righteousness. Also, because they were seen as trees of the gods, and then of God, first because the region was polytheistic, it wasn't monotheistic, they were seen as sacred trees, and people had even to invent a legend to justify the fact that they are cutting the cedars. I strongly recommend you read the segments of the Gilgamesh epic regarding how they killed Humbaba, the guardian of the cedar forest on Mount Lebanon. And of course, given its organic link to Lebanon, it became the natural symbol to choose to put on our cedar, and this actually also on our flag. And this process took 300 years. One of the first to use it consciously was Patriarch Sfan Dwayhe. If you go to Sayyidat An-Nubin, you see him in a fresco standing in front of the cedars of Lebanon, and he commissioned this fresco. Another very important aspect that we don't know, we tend to forget that we have Baalbek. Given the political circumstances in the Bekaa, Baalbek actually is a victim. Baalbek is the biggest complex of almost intact Roman temples. Even in Rome, we don't have this level of intact. You do know the so-called Temple of Bacchus. All it needs is a ceiling and it goes back. We can even relaunch the cult of Bacchus. It would be something quite interesting. The Temple of Baalbek is an expression of imperial Roman power. It's a very powerful tool to actually promote and project the power of Rome in a very important province. I decided to, I'm not going to tell you in details about the history of Baalbek. This is something that you can find easily everywhere. But given that you are in the SURSOCK Palace tonight, this is the SURSOCK bronze. It represents the god of Baalbek. We don't have monumental statues of this god, but we have small votive statues. Many of, there's one at the National Museum in Beirut and one at the Louvre. The one at the Louvre is the SURSOCK bronze. That's Iovi, Optimo, Maximo, Heliopolitano. Jupiter, the best, the greatest of Heliopolis. And Heliopolis is the Greco-Roman name of Baalbek. This god is a young god. His title is Rider of the Clouds. He is surrounded by two bulls. He's a man. This is a symbol of virility. And he controls the stars. On his chest, you have the stars of the planets of the solar system. This god is not quite Roman. This god originally is a local god. His name is Baal Haddu. He's the god of rain, fertility, and the sustainer of life. And one of his merits, he killed the original maleficent snake. He reminds you of someone? Who kills a snake or a dragon? St. George is a continuation of the cult of Baal. And also, you do have to know what kind of logistics and engineering and architectural skills the Romans had to build Baalbek. Baalbek was not built by aliens. This is a ridiculous narrative that actually takes away the agency that humans have in controlling and in building. We have detailed texts explaining how Baalbek was built. Romans were capable of this magnificent scale. Another lighter side of history. This would have been this picture was taken in the beginning of the 19th century. It shows a lady somewhere in a village in Mount Lebanon preparing the mar'u. The mar'u is not the only type of heritage bread we have. We have many. We are a region, we are a country that is blessed by diversity. So we don't have one thing of each. We have many of each type. So you do know that in villages, there was no furn. There were no bakeries. People had to rely on their own production. However, there was a very intelligent way of producing bread once a week communally. But given that we don't know our history very well, the furn and niswain that existed in every village was actually what sustained the village. We are so ignorant of our history that we made furn and niswain into a negative thing. This is what sustained us for thousands and thousands of years. Women would gather once a week, keep the men away, and prepare all the types of bread. You do know what are the names of the heritage bread type? The mar'u, the tannoor, the one has a quite a funny name in Arabic, tlami, and the firne. The firne became the one that we use. Did they have time to cook lunch, to prepare lunch? This is how the manouche was born. Manouche was originally served for lunch on the day where the women would be preparing bread. They would take the dough they have and they would add whatever they had, za'atar, jibni, or if it was a festive day, they would add meat and creating lahm bajin. Then when the people of Mount Lebanon started moving into the cities, and because we have this entrepreneurial spirit, they used their skills in baking in introducing the manouche as the breakfast for a city in expansion. It's fast, it's nutritious, and it's delicious. And this is how, in the beginning of the 19th century, 20th century, manouche shifted from being lunch to actually becoming breakfast. But there's another level to this history. Every time you eat food, you are actually engaging with thousands and thousands of years of skills and knowledge, and of course, mobility. Nothing is isolated in history. Many of what we think now is our heritage food is very recent. If you want to taste something that is older than the meza, you need to go to the actual highland villages in Mount Lebanon and ask them to prepare for you sli. Do you know what sli is? Sli is actually something that took 12,000 years to combine because they had to identify all the wild plants, whether they were something that is good for health or something that is bad. And they would add with it chickpeas and do delicious, delicious dishes. The meza became possible because of something that we call the Columbian Exchange. Let me give you a simple. The Columbian Exchange, it's when the Europeans discovered the Americas and brought two things that actually changed the culinary system. Banadura, that we got through the Italians. This is why we call it pomodoro, banadura, and potatoes. So tabbouleh was without tomatoes up until the 1920s because it was so expensive to have. Another thing that happened 1,000 years before that is the introduction of rice. You do know the famous Lebanese proverb regarding an imaginary war between rice and burghul. شو هو المثل؟ العز للرز وال هيدا المثل is actually an example of what happened 200, 300. We've known rice at least for 1,000 years here, since the Abbasid period. But it was very expensive. This is why where do you find rice in festivities? What do we do when we have a wedding? We throw, what are we throwing actually? We are throwing money. Because people, and this is what we call, merci, العز, prestige. People who had money, when they celebrated weddings, they would actually not only distribute rice, but they will dispose of rice to show that they had money. Two, there's another festivity also, or occasion, where we use rice to celebrate something that is very joyful, and it's related to food. You've all had مغلي. What is مغلي? Rice plus spices plus three components that were extremely expensive. First, rice. We didn't have rice here. We either imported it directly from India, China, or Iraq, or Egypt. We had sugar. Beirut used to produce sugar. Tripoli used to produce sugar, but it was very expensive. And spices, you do know, spices were, for a long period of time, extremely expensive. So when you do a mughli, if you have a newborn, you are showing people that you have money, power, prestige, and of course you are reflecting in food and in money your joy. Think of it, many sweet dishes that we have are rice-based. And up until now, when you have a big azime, rice should be something that is present. So your food tells your history. I don't want to disappoint you. Hummus is not that old. And this obsession with hummus is rather an ill-advised branding or marketing, because our food is way more interesting than a plain side dish of a side dish. Think of what your grandmother would say if you would invite your friends exclusively for hummus. Think of that. To reposition the beauty and the exquisite taste of the Lebanese culinary heritage. The most important part, at least personally for me, is that what makes Lebanon special. We have been for a long time in a quest for an identity, and this is actually justifiable. We have known extremely violent history recently, and currently we are living in times of extreme danger. However, we need to keep in mind that what we call the Lebanese idea and the Lebanese identity exists. And anyone who tells you, لا ما في هوية لبنانية, this is not actually, it's academically, it's untrue. However, سلموا عليه. لا تعرفوا الجهل بالتاريخ بيؤدي لكمان مواقف غريبة عجيبة. Our identity, first personally you can identify whatever you want. This is in regarding to diversity, but our identity is based on very modern pillars. And it was born in the last 300 years by accumulation of skills. The first is freedom. This has been an area that for centuries had some sort of self-rule. Self-rule that accumulated over thousands of years was transformed into autonomy in the 19th century. And this freedom now has more modern emanations: freedom of thought, personal freedoms, freedom of press, freedom of... this is very important, and this is what makes the Lebanese model dangerous for many, many of our neighbors. Two, this freedom also, if I go through the pillars of modernity, I'll go back to the identity pillars when I finish these. So first, this identity was born in the context and framework of transformation of political and legal systems in the 19th century. We had a proto-constitution in 1861. Even if we were still under the Ottoman Empire, we had what we call the Mutasarrifiyya of Jabal Lebanon. It had a constitution even before the empire. You do know how important it is to shift from parochial politics in the mountains to constitutional rule that sets the boundaries, that sets checks and balances, that actually proclaims equality of all. 1861! And that introduces democracy. Because people back then were called upon to elect the Mukhtar. Mukhtars back then were very important. Two, there was a relative long period of peace from 1861 to 1914, and then relatively at peace till 1975, even if we lived in a very volatile region. And long periods of peace are crucial to build a country. Three, I mentioned already the constitutional chart. For the opening of schools, if you take Lebanon and you compare it to the Ottoman Empire, it was under the Ottoman Empire, but it was a small province. The density of schools in Mount Lebanon and Beirut were exceptional. When you have a dense network, schools opened by local monastic orders, by local religious actors, by missionaries, Protestant, Catholic, Orthodox, even if they were competing for students, but actually we benefited a lot because they gave us exposure to three different educational systems. The local that now we identify as Arabic, the French, and the English. This produced actually, in half a century, a rise in literary rates. لأعطيكم فكرة. 1861, less than 3% were able to read and write in Mount Lebanon. By 1914, it's 55%. You have an amazing shift, and not only people who can read and write, people who are debating modernity, politics, the role of women, the participation of women in politics, already there. Very modern approach. Six, relative freedom of press. People could publish in Beirut what they couldn't publish elsewhere. And this is still the case. And this is one very important aspect of the freedom. Diaspora voices. We are a very mobile people. We should be proud. This mobility gave us the ability actually not only to lobby. However, if I may say something, in the 1900s, the Lebanese lobbies were way more effective and organized than now. All you have to do is go check what Shikri Ghanem, Yusuf Sauda, Boulos and James, these are the founding fathers of Lebanon, but we don't find them in the history books. These were people writing plans to establish Lebanon and delivering them, sometimes in the French Senate, sometimes at the British consulate. They lobbied for 20 years for the establishment of Greater Lebanon. So anyone who tells you لبنان خطأ تاريخي كمان يقولوا له معلش مشينا, this is nonsense. لا خطأ ولا شيء, ما في شيء اسمه خطأ تاريخي. This is one of the few countries that was actually profoundly built by its locals. And it took us a long time, but نجحنا. You add to it work of thinkers. We were the first to say, we love the past, however, we need to break with the past. We need to present something new. This is why we were key in something called the Nahda, the Renaissance in the Middle East, in the Arabic world. Cultural production. You have schools, you have universities and thinkers. You are producing cultural models that are consumed, because you do know culture is also a consumption product. This is what made, let me give you a small insight. The Arabic that is used to Nasharat al-Akhbar, I know for now it's very boring, it's a language, le temps a dépassé cette langue pour le moment. But à l'époque, this was a very modern approach that people from Lebanon modernized Arabic, made it more accessible. And last, they started formulating national ideas. Almost all the national ideas that are present in the Arab world were formulated by Lebanese. If we take this experience of these 10 pillars and try to identify what makes Lebanon or what makes Lebanese identity, we can say clearly, historically, we have 3 pillars. First, the freedom. Freedom is a key value to aspire to. 2, diversity. Add to this diversity, democracy to manage it. And 3, the production of knowledge. This is what makes Lebanon an extremely dangerous place when it is at peace, because even if in terms of geography and demography, it is extremely small, but its people are so skilled that they are a cultural force that exceeds their size. This is what we still have. It's not dead. Do not despair. This is something that cannot be killed. You cannot erase 300 years of... Why am I saying 300 years? For a simple reason. This is when we started having modern teaching. We can go back thousands of years ago, but let's go to something that we can trace quantitatively. 300 years ago, we started having schools. In the 19th century, we had modern universities and modern schools. You have an accumulation of 12,000 years of history and heritage and 300 years experience with modernity. This is something that's very difficult to erase. Especially that you are tonight gathered here. Not only this is an iconic monument, but you do know the value of this magnificent statue. Have you ever seen it before? This is the original Statue des Martyrs. This is a more Lebanese version. The current statue is made by Mazzakurati, an amazing artist from the 50s, but he's Italian. The features are not Lebanese. This was made by Lahwayik, Yusuf Lahwayik. Do you know who is Yusuf Lahwayik? He's the brother of the patriarch Lahwayik. He was an artist. This statue was originally more than 5 meters high. It's called Les Pleureuses. It represents, keep an eye on that. The current statue represents men. This statue represents 2 mothers. One is Christian, one is Muslim. And they are both honoring the martyrs. It was intended to be an echo honoring the mothers of Lebanon. However, because we had a band called عصبة تكريم الشهداء in 1950s, كسرولا من خارة, they decided, no, we need a man to represent the martyrs. However, there's another message here. The mothers of Lebanon that are caring for the martyrs and for their sacrifice. You have a monumental history at your disposal. You have humble borders, but a monumental past. And the contrast between this geographical size and the magnitude of the historical significance of Lebanon is something that you can build upon in your domain, and is something that we can build upon, because these pillars are the antithesis of what is presented now as Lebanon. And they, not only they are pillars that are academic, luxurious debates, they were effective. They proved that they were able to make a country, to make it relatively stable, and to make out of it a cultural superpower. Thank you very much.
Charles, thank you so much. I can't think of a better time to do this presentation. Honestly, this is culture as a tool to state our identity, as a tool of optimism. Thank you, Charles. Thank you so much. If you want to follow more of Charles Hayek presentation, Heritage and Roots on Instagram, honestly, and I don't know where else. And dinner served, guys. Let the party start. Thank you so much.